Welcome to Step Into the Arena, redefining equine-assisted coaching. We're Diana Gogan and Janice Story, coaches, horsewomen, and founders of a comprehensive equine-assisted coach training program rooted in personal transformation and authentic horse-human partnership. Join us in conversations about what it truly means to coach with horses as equal partners and co-facilitators. We explore the heart, soul, and foundations of equine-assisted coaching and what it takes to become a coach who changes lives. If you're curious about becoming an equine-assisted coach, you're in the right arena. In this episode, we are diving into the question of what is equine-assisted coaching? Whether you are totally new to this concept and idea, or maybe you have even had a couple of horse experiences of your own through equine-assisted coaching or equine-assisted therapy, perhaps, we want to give you a clear picture of what it is, why it works, and who it is for.
And trust me, it's a whole lot more than just being around horses. It's partnering with them, it's being in a space of presence, and it's really a place where transformation occurs.
And we call that magic because it's just such a magical space. So actually, to kick this off, Janice, how would you describe equine assisted coaching, just in real simple, basic terms?
You know, it's really a powerful hands-on way of coaching where the client partners with the horse and the coach to explore emotions, what's going on in their world, situations in their life. And the horse really responds from an authentic place. The horses have no judgment, they love unconditionally, and they really provide a safe place for the client. The horse kind of acts as a co-facilitator in the session along with the coach.
And that's the cool part, right? Because you actually have a partner in this work. And everything you said is so spot on. It's so true of the things that we experience as coaches that I know my clients have experienced. And this is one of the things that we love about teaching this program to others. It's that real-time feedback that comes from like a 1,000-pound mirror, right? Somebody who's a being who can read into your soul, who moves beyond the verbal into that nonverbal area and can really reflect back to you just naturally things that we may not be aware of in that moment. And so they don't care necessarily what you say.
Mm-mm.
Horses really care more so about who you are when you show up. That's the energy. That's kind of the vibe, if you will, that they work on. And that's what makes this such an honest experience because the horses don't lie. They just are naturally responding to the energy and the presence of what is in their space.
Exactly. And that honesty is what really helps people cut through their own noise so they can get to the truth of who they are. And it's usually a whole lot faster than traditional therapy. That's what makes it so incredible.
So let's talk about this next question because it's a major part of this. Why horses? What makes them different from, say, dogs or other animals or even a nature-based experience?
Well, horses live by reading energy, Diana. And as prey animals, their survival depends on it. You know, they pick up on subtle shifts in body language from somebody else, their emotions, even what people are thinking. That's what makes them incredibly intuitive partners. They're not reacting to our words, they're really responding to our presence and our own energy and the space of wherever we are in that moment.
Oh, that is so true. One of the things that we teach a lot is you can't fool a horse because they see clearly. Through learning how to survive out in the wild, they've learned to read the unseen. They've learned to read beyond what is physically present. And so you may walk up to a horse smiling and saying everything is fine and just pretending everything's good. But if you've got something going on inside, the horse senses that. And so they will naturally respond to that. It's kind of like when you're talking to somebody and they say they're fine and they're happy, but you sense something's not quite right with the conversation. Well, that's exactly what the horse is experiencing, and they're just going to naturally respond to that. And that begins that mirroring and reflecting aspect of equine assisted coaching that only horses can do.
It really does. And horses don't judge. So it gives somebody the space that they can show up without being in shame or without feeling the pressure from something. They're allowed to just be who they are.
And that's really where transformation happens. That's or actually where it begins, where people finally feel seen
Mhm.
and heard and witnessed. You know, maybe for the first time in a long time, that's when transformation can actually begin to start to happen. So let's talk about what actually happens in a session, because people often imagine that maybe you're riding horses, or maybe you're just brushing horses, or people have different ideas and concepts about that, and it can be all of those things, none of those things, and a whole bunch of other things too, right?
Definitely. So most sessions happen on the ground. There's no riding involved. The client might engage in a specific activity or exercise sometimes with the horse, like leading it through an obstacle or through some cones, or they might simply just be present, maybe brushing a horse or just being with them, watching how the horse responds. The cool thing about this is the session unfolds how it's supposed to. And when you let go of that agenda, it allows whatever is going to happen to happen.
And that's actually the moment where you actually get out of the way of the horse.
Mhm.
Right. When we talk about a horse being an equal partner, that's truly what it means, is to allow the horse to do their job. And I've seen times where, a client and a horse have been in a session together, and the horse will walk away from the client.
Mhm.
And that really opens up a beautiful opportunity for conversation. What is the client experiencing as they move through that? And everybody has a different answer, because we all have different background and we all have different experiences. So when you allow the horse to show up as the horse, and we talk a lot about allowing the horse to be at liberty, then the horse can is free to respond, and the horse is reading the energy of the client and what's going on in that nonverbal space and responding accordingly. And so that opens up just beautiful moments of conversation where the client can actually begin to notice and see what the horse is seeing and bring that stuff up and address it.
I've seen that a lot too. I can remember having the session where a horse did that, walked away from the client, and all of a sudden rejection came up. And the
Mhm.
client hadn't known that that was something that had been bothering that or in the back of their mind, but the horse was able to show them that. And the really cool thing about when that happens is as soon as the person acknowledges that, the horse usually comes right back to the client. So it becomes this experience where they learn that they can honor how they feel and not push people away further, that they're not really doing that.
And I think you just really beautifully described that this type of coaching is embodied.
Mhm.
You're not just talking about change and then the client having to go out and figure out how to apply that in their life. The client is actually experiencing it. They're experiencing it in their body. They're experiencing it in their emotions. They're experiencing it through the connection. It now becomes part of their cell memory, so that it is an embodied experience. So therefore, it is easier to duplicate when you
Mhm.
make shifts and changes out in the world. But along with that is being able to duplicate it. You become really aware of how you are when, a lot of this stuff are things that are just so habitual, we don't even think about it,
Mhm.
right? It's
Yeah.
deep in our subconscious, but when it comes up to awareness and we can feel what it feels like in our body and the thoughts and the emotions that go with it, that moment of awareness makes all the difference. When you're aware of something, you have choices,
Mhm.
and you can do something about it. When you're not aware of something, you don't have a choice, and therefore you don't do anything with it. Next, what I really would like to talk about is who this work is for. A lot of people have the idea that this working with horses, this equine assisted coaching, is only for those who have experienced some deep trauma or are in need of some deep emotional healing.
Right. And that's a common assumption, but really it's for anybody that's ready to grow. It's incredibly helpful for those that are navigating grief, anxiety, any type of transition. And I've also worked with big corporations, company CEOs, teenagers that are trying to figure out who they are, girls that are struggling. And I work a lot with addiction too.
So what I'm hearing you say, and I would totally agree with this, is that it's for everybody, right? You don't need, it does help people with PTSD. It does help people with some deep emotional healing, but it doesn't always have to be that way. I've had clients come to explore their leadership or to shift a relationship pattern that you're having. Or a lot of my clients just come to reconnect with themselves. We get so busy and lost out in the world around us that there are moments in our lives where it's like, I've lost track of me and I want to reconnect with that. So horses don't filter out who they can help and who they can't based on what that person shows up with. Like we've talked about, a horse, when you move into a session with a horse, the horse is reading what is entering into their environment, who the person is showing up, what they are showing and what they're not showing. And the horse doesn't care what your goals are. The horse is going to respond to what is present in the moment. And that always, I have never once had a session where that did not lead exactly where the client needed to go that day.
Exactly, Diana. It's really for anyone who wants to get out of their head back into their body and really create the meaningful life that they want and desire from the inside out.
Mhm. And that's why I think this field, as far as coaches, is such a broad field because it covers so many different areas. You're not stuck in a particular niche. You and I have different niches. We have some very similar type of clients we work with, but we also have some very different type of clients that we work with too. And so it's what you feel comfortable in working with. It's not a one size fits all. And as a coach, you determine what that looks like for your own specific practice. Before we close, I just want to briefly mention that the Freedom Way is an equine assisted coach certification program. We do train coaches to do this work. We're not going to dive into all the specifics of that today, but if this conversation sparked your curiosity, whether as a potential client, this might be something you want to experience for yourself, or if you're interested in entering into this field as a coach, we invite you to look at the website and learn more about it.
Yes, equine assisted coaching really isn't like anything else. When it's done with integrity and a true partnership between the horses and the coach, it really can be life changing.
Absolutely. It's not about fixing anyone. It's about creating space for someone to remember who they are. And I really like that, remembering who we are. Absolutely. It's not about fixing anyone. It's about creating a space for people to remember who they are, with a horse walking right beside them. So if this is something that is of interest to you, we invite you to step into the arena with us. Thanks for joining us inside the arena. If today's episode sparked something in you, be sure to like and subscribe and watch for upcoming episodes. To learn more about the Freedom Way Equine Assisted Coach Certification Program, as well as other training and learning opportunities, visit us at freedomwayequinecoaching.com.